The snow was falling gently from the sky, blanketing the barren wasteland in a white coat. It was Christmas morning, a day that used to bring joy and celebration, now just another day of survival in the harsh world of the Fallout universe. In a small settlement, a group of survivors had managed to build a small community. They had scavenged and fought their way through the dangers of the wasteland, and now they were trying to make a life for themselves. They had a small farm, a few shelters, and even a makeshift Christmas tree made out of scrap metal and wires. It wasn't much, but it was home. As the sun rose, the members of the settlement gathered around the Christmas tree, exchanging gifts they had made from scraps and treasures found in the ruins. They laughed and sang, trying to forget about the dangers that lurked outside their walls. But their peace was short-lived. As they were about to sit down for a Christmas feast, they heard the sound of motorcycles approaching. The settlers immediately grabbed their weapons and took cover, knowing all too well what those engines meant. Raiders. The group had encountered them before, ruthless and bloodthirsty. They would stop at nothing to get what they wanted. And now, they had their sights set on the settlement. The leader of the group, a man named Jack, quickly gathered his people and devised a plan. They knew they couldn't outrun the raiders on their motorcycles, so they would have to stand their ground and fight. The raiders arrived, their bikes screeching to a halt outside the walls of the settlement. They were armed to the teeth, their leader barking orders and demanding that the settlers hand over their supplies. But Jack and his people were prepared. They had built fortifications and traps around their settlement, and when the raiders breached the walls, they were met with a barrage of gunfire and explosives. It was a fierce battle, but the settlers were determined to protect their home. They fought bravely, taking down raider after raider. But their numbers were dwindling, and the raiders seemed to have an endless supply of reinforcements. As the sun began to set, the settlers were running low on ammunition and supplies. Jack knew they couldn't hold out much longer. He looked around at his people, seeing the exhaustion and fear in their eyes. He knew they needed a miracle to survive this raid. And then, a miracle happened. From the distance, they heard the sound of engines again. But this time, it wasn't the raiders. It was a group of travelers, passing through the area. Jack and his people held their breath, praying that these travelers were friendly. And to their relief, they were. The travelers, a group of Brotherhood of Steel soldiers, had noticed the commotion and had come to investigate. With their advanced weapons and power armor, the Brotherhood soldiers quickly turned the tide of the battle. The raiders were no match for their firepower, and soon, the last of them were defeated. The settlers cheered and hugged each other, grateful to be alive and to have been saved by the Brotherhood. Jack approached the leader of the soldiers, a woman named Sarah, and thanked her for their help. "We couldn't just stand by and watch innocent people get attacked," Sarah said, a small smile on her face. "Especially on Christmas." The settlers invited the Brotherhood soldiers to stay for their Christmas feast, and they happily accepted. As they sat around the table, sharing stories and food, Jack couldn't help but feel grateful for this unexpected turn of events. He realized that even in this desolate world, there were still good people out there. And as long as they stuck together and helped each other, they could survive and maybe even thrive. After the feast, the Brotherhood soldiers bid their farewell and continued on their journey. Jack and his people watched them go, feeling a sense of hope and gratitude. They knew that they would never forget this Christmas raid and the kindness of strangers who saved them. As they cleaned up the aftermath of the battle, Jack looked up at the sky, the snow still falling gently. He couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, there was still a glimmer of hope left in this world. And that was enough to keep him and his people going. Yay, the end. Oh right, yeah, I have to do this stuff now. Like, comment and subscribe. And please watch my other videos and comment ideas on stories.